What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB here. So I'm gonna try to get through this video without my allergies absolutely murking me as they've done all day. But there's been some recent blowback from the Haasan Reddick trade between the Eagles and the Jets. Not necessarily attacking anything the Jets have done, but there's been some stuff put out there about Haasan Reddick that's going to paint him in an unfavorable light, right? Personally, for me, this doesn't make me question anything. If nothing else, I would say Robert Saleh absolutely would love hearing this to a certain degree. What are the rumors, right? There's been some people that have put out some information for us. Jeff McClain, the Eagles beat reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and then I've heard from JAKIB Sports, the National Football Show with Dan Salio. They pointing out some messages that, for one, they didn't just, the Eagles purely didn't want to pay out the extension to Haasan Reddick, which how he's performed over the last 4 years, the double-digit sacks, being an excellent closer in the fourth quarter, and a leader of that defense. He's looking at upwards to $20 to $25 million, even at his 29 to 30-ish plus, age range, right? Not something you ideally want to do. Secondly, Reddick wasn't going to take a hometown discount of any kind because he's had to turn his career 100% around. Now, obviously, the Eagles really helped him in that manner of things, considering he was having that former first round bust label attached to him, and that's a stigma that's really hard to get rid of, which I think is why it's such a great trade for the Jets. Honestly, if you want to talk about the Will McDonald comparisons, he's a guy that already is kind of getting the bus label applied, and there's not even a clear starting path to him becoming a starter with this unit. And as a first round pick, that's going to be the clear assumption right out of the gate. So to see that that might not happen in 4 to 5 years is tough. And you've already seen him get impacted. Some of his exit interviews said that, he had to come to an understanding that he maybe wasn't where he thought he was going to be at in order to contribute more, among other things. Haasan Reddick is essentially the perfect mentor for him. Got it out the mud. Not only did he turn things around, it's not like he's just an average starter in the league. He's done it at an elite level. So great person for Will McDonald to want to kind of emulate, especially as he's pairing himself up with Jermaine Johnson over the offseason. But to get back to the bigger scope of the issue here, the major headline rumor is that Vic Fangio, who was the former defensive coordinator for the Eagles, wanted to trade Haasan Reddick for quite some time. This is dating back to last year in the season, and that's because he, among other players, and Fletcher Cox was the only one I've seen specifically named, thought that he might be chasing sacks, right? Purely a selfishly motivated move where he's looking to kind of secure some of those contract incentives, right? You can take a look at the Jets trade package for some kind of context, right? We give them a conditional third round pick in 2026 that can become a second rounder if he plays 67.5% of the snaps and has 10 plus sacks. And fun fact here, if you guys didn't hear this already, or looked it up, none of our edge rushers really hit that threshold. So unless we get hit with injuries or something crazy happens, essentially we gave them a third rounder, right? So that's awesome. But, excluding that, chasing sacks, I can't say is necessarily a bad thing, right? I don't really look at this as a hindrance or a disruption to the Jets at all. Now, there's two ways to kind of view this. The Jets, Robert Saleh's vision for this defense, this attacking 4-3 front, and what he's built with Jeff Ulbrich here. He's mentioned it on a few occasions already, and everybody's in lockstep. Attack the running back on the way to your quarterback, right? Everything is essentially about getting the quarterback on the ground, impacting him every opportunity you get. We'll figure out things on the run, and that's why we have these super athletic linebackers, or at least highly intelligent ones, with CJ Mosley being on I don't want to say the downward spiral of his career, but he's definitely not holding the same level of athleticism he had earlier on. But there's a reason why we set up our defense and brought in the kind of talent and stuff that we're looking for. Not really much of a problem for us. Now, we do put a premium on run defense when it does come to our edge defenders, right? That's why you look at guys like JFM being penciled in as a starter. That's why you look at guys like Jermaine Johnson being penciled in as a starter. That's why we were really celebrating Michael Clemens as a later round draft pick when he came in and he held up excellent in run defense and still gave us some pass pop. You even going back to the JFM conversation, we went as far as pulling him away from his defensive tackle alignment where he's a little bit more effective as a pass rusher to make sure that we aren't giving up the edge as often to running backs and kind of being manipulated in that facet, right? You want to find a way to continue to force the quarterback to have the ball in his hands to play into how our defense is set up. But ultimately, like I'm mentioning, it's about the quarterback. So if he is chasing sacks, while we don't want some of the issues like disruption in communication out there on the defense, it essentially being a 10-man game because Haasan Reddick is doing his own thing, or him even necessarily being worried 100% about his contract. The great thing is this is probably one of the few, if only, settings that's perfectly suited for him to do just that, right? We found a way in 2022 to give Bryce Huff, who wasn't great in run defense, and Haasan Reddick definitely hasn't beaten out in that element of defense. We found a way to put him in almost a perfect setup to only have to be on the field for pass rush situations, right? Not what we want to do with Haasan Reddick, especially at the number we brought him in on, and currently no changes to his contract. But ultimately, it's not that much of a problem for me. Now, we'll see what happens as the season goes on. If we lose more games than expected earlier on in the season, maybe we see an about face, and it turns out Haasan Reddick is a little bit more selfish than anything. But from what I've seen from his introductory press conference, went back and seen some other player interview stuff that he's done. He doesn't strike me as that particular type of guy, especially one that's had to really humble himself after the start to his career. So ultimately, let me know what you guys think, especially if you're Eagles fans. I'm very curious about this topic because it's not something that generally is thrown around a lot. I can't remember anybody else that was necessarily being titled as a sack chaser, especially in a negative way that could impact them. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you again. Peace.